first time I was ever altar serving, I had always wanted to do it like my whole life since I became an Orthodox Christian, and I was never old enough in my church. I think it was because when I was little, I always wanted to go in places I wasn't allowed to go in. Like, I remember I always wanted to be able to go into the altar and see what it was like and everything. He said, "Would you like to be an altar server?" And I was like, "Yeah, I always wanted to be an altar server." I've been serving for like the past 2 or 3 years here. Mostly I carry candles outside for processions, and I also hold the bread for the Eucharist or the end of the service, and prepare like the censer for Father. Sometimes I get a little distracted, you know. It's not quite as fun as I had thought, but it is fun still. It's an important job to do.
It makes me think of what G.K. Chesterton once said, that the reason that we write and read about golden apples in our fairy tales is to remind us of the real beauty and joy and tastefulness of a red apple. Therefore, we need things that pull us from the mire in which we continually put ourselves, to remind us of what our calling is, of what our vocation is, of where we actually are and whose we are.
God didn't come to save our souls and snatch us away from the world, which he was then going to burn up, but he came to redeem creation, including us and our bodies and the rest of the world. And that's a powerful thought. That's a powerful thought, the idea that all these things, no matter how broken they get, are good, and that God came to redeem them, to put things right, put the pieces back together. Underneath all the grit and the grime and the sin and the shame is something that's meant to be polished and burnished so that they can shine with the reflected light of Christ.
I was baptized when I was 10 years old. Before the bell rang in the morning, I would go out on the swing set and I would swing. And I remember that day, like I always did, swinging on the swings, but just feeling different. I felt like I was a different person. I remember just feeling like the whole world looked different, feeling lighter as I swung through the air, and the blue of the sky was bluer than it usually is. And it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling.
They will grow up and they will have to choose Christ over and over again, just like we all do. But that first entrance into the church is really a gift that the parents are giving them.
Mommy, Mama, Mommy, Mom, can you help me to paint?
Church, I think it kind of represents like God's people, kind of, and then, which we are, and then inside the altar is kind of like heaven. The altar servers always go in through doing the small doors. They always have angels on them, which is kind of like the angels coming out of heaven. They're the helpers of God, and the priest is kind of symbolizing God there, but he's kind of doing what God does and what God actually does. So then we help him, and the angels help God, so we're kind of like, I guess, kind of like the angels a little bit, I guess.
I love the concept of the darkness and the light, the Paschal candle coming in and everybody sharing the light, because isn't that what the church is meant to do? Exactly.
Because it's Pascha, it's like the biggest thing, like the biggest service that there is. And I really like when we get to come out of the whole church and actually go outside. We don't usually get to do that. I've actually led the procession quite a bit before. Then Father comes behind all the altar servers, with probably 1 or 2 altar servers behind him. we'll have fans, so we're carrying fans. Then comes the choir, then comes the rest of the whole church coming out behind us. We go like completely around the whole church and then come back to the main doors.
Another thing I appreciate about the church is the focus on the resurrection of Christ. And while we definitely focus on his passion and think about that, but there's always a victorious element to it. It's always Christ is victorious. Christ tramples down death. He knocks open the gates of Hades, and I think destroys death. Like death thinks it can swallow up God, and then God blows it open.
The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in war. Lift up your gates, O ye princes, and be lifted up, you everlasting gates, and the King of glory shall enter in.
Who is the King of glory?
The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in war. Lift up your gates, O ye princes, and be lifted up, you everlasting gates, and the King of glory shall enter in.
Who is the King of glory?
The Lord of hosts.
Breaking open the gates of Hades, kind of like God's breaking open the gates of Hades, and then we open up the doors, we all come back into the church. I do like to do the Apostle services and stuff, especially because we get to have the doors open. They're kind of like the entrance into heaven, because like Jesus like broke open Hades and everything. It's kind of like, I think it kind of like is like, it's kind of like that.
But to hear the proclamation, and of course our first experience being in the Greek Orthodox, Christos Anesti, and they would just say it, just like Father Matthew does, Christos Anesti, Christ is risen. Do you hear this? And there was just a wonderful enthusiasm there.
When I was 8, it was really hard to stand up for the whole services, especially Pascha, Christmas, those like 3-hour, 4-hour long services. So I hadn't had much water that day, and I wasn't feeling very well, and I almost actually fainted from the stress of standing up and not having enough water. I just kind of like fell down because because it was so hard. I've gotten used to standing up a lot. Before, I could not stand up on entire liturgy. Like, I just could not do that, and it was so hard for me. Like, now it's not that hard at all. Like, I can easily do it, and so can like all my friends who do it.
Somebody quoted one time, they said, they asked some monks on Mount Athos, what do you all do here all day? And this monk said, well, we fall and we get up. We fall and we get up. We fall and we keep trying. And I think that's what all of us do as we try to prepare and participate in the liturgy.
Because we recognize how far we've fallen short, that we have in fact profaned this relationship or this thing, and therefore we're not by ourselves able to make it sacred. We bring that to the one who is able to, and he gifts to us through that sacrament of repentance and confession and absolution, he gifts to us the means to be able to make that sacred again. So that again there's this synergy that takes place. And so in the sacraments we are strengthening the bond of synergy between the will of God and our own will, so that we can practice his will when we go out into the world around us.
I think it's helped me learn how important the services actually are, because when I was little, I always just wanted the services to be like done and for them to, because I always wanted to go off to play with my friends or something. When I was like little, I never really realized how much everything was, like pretty much everything in the church symbolizes something in heaven. Or I think it's being blessed, and you get closer to God when you're in it.
All my life, what I've looked for is understanding. And for me, understanding means having a picture that includes everything. I'm interested in understanding all the stuff I read. I read science, theology, literature, history, and I want to see it all fit together. And I learned pretty early on that Christianity is kind of the idea at the heart around which the rest can constellate. Yes, entropy is true, the universe is vast, and physical law is true, but Christ has come to renew and restore and redeem all that. And so there's the flip side of that. Yes, things fall apart, the center kind of whole decay happens, but ultimately light shines into that darkness and everything is changed.
Down death by death, and upon those in the